What I love about LARP,
I ended up in a LARP on accident. I personally enjoy
getting into and portraying the character.
freaking people out.
Am I looking at you or am I looking at him? I can't see this.
Desert of Shadows means many things to me.
Losing yourself in them for, the 2-4 hours that you're playing that character and really embodying it.
It's a place where you can go and everybody knows your name.
I am very proud to be a member of Desert of Shadows.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm currently playing a NPC named Pandora, and I am in the clan Nosferatu. Being involved in a LARP, it's an interaction between people on a very close terms kind of situation. It's not like when you watch a movie and you feel good. You're actually involved in it.
My name is Lauren. I play the Malkavian neonate, Joanna, and I'm a player in the game, and I am the director for the YouTube videos. What attracts me to Vampire is I love the operatic-ness of Vampire. Everything's dialed up to 11. The drama, the politics, the atmosphere, everything is dark, yes, but everything is also beautiful. And you get to operate in that space as a player. And that's really fun.
The world feels so alive. There's so many different elements in, the people that you're playing with all at the same time. They're not DM controlled NPCs. These are people with agendas and, they're living, breathing.
Just forget about all your real world troubles and let the troubles of this character come in and just wash over you, and they're usually a lot better than the real world troubles.
My objectives were originally I wanted to make new friends after a recent divorce because I just love it. I love the role play, I love the costuming, and I love the uncertainty of what's going to happen next.
My name is Matthew, and I play Maximilian Supperkiss, a member of Clan Gangrel, and I'm a storyteller with the Desert of Shadows LARP community. The thing that I like most about Vampire LARP is the exploration of the darker aspects of fantasy. I love the idea that a person can explore the inner turmoil between humanity and the beast, and the struggle between the base instincts of wanting to feed, of wanting to be the apex predator, versus everything that humanity has taught us to be caring, to look out for each other, to not betray your friends. Vampire is about that exploration of the darker aspects of humanity.
I normally play a lot of Gen Con, so I get a chance to play in a very, very large variety of LARPs. I think what the cool thing about Vampire, especially if you're playing in a Camarilla Vampire LARP, is that you get to play into this idea of a political game. And it's a little bit more adult, it's a little bit more sexy.
I've had some of the best stories in the Werewolf LARP and the Vampire LARP that have brought me to tears.
I don't know, there's something really personable about LARPs. So emotions can run high, ideas can come together, and I think that when people feel like they're creating a story with other people, and it makes them feel good, that's what I love about it. I love to feel good myself and to give that feeling to other people.
So my origin story is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. I have a dear friend Lee, and his older brother Ryan played Vampire way back in the day, and we were 14 years old. And one day he said, "Hey, why don't you guys come with me and check it out and see if you like it?" And Lee and I were like, "No, we're not going to do that." And Ryan was like, "Well, listen, for $5 you can drink all the soda you want." And I was like, I'm sold. Let's do it. So Lee and I went to a game. At that game, I would meet a person who's been a mentor to me for all of my young life and adult life, and just fell in love with it.
Okay, so my LARPer origin story is I ended up in a LARP on accident. So I had a friend, and he told me that if I ever got the chance to play Vampire, that Vampire was my game, and so I should never pass up an opportunity to play Vampire. So when I moved to Las Vegas a couple years ago, I didn't know anyone, and I looked for a Vampire game. And that's how I found Desert of Shadows, and I went to Natural 20, the game store where it's hosted, and you know, I thought it was a tabletop game, and I ended up trying it anyway, and I loved it. The rest is history.
My husband had started playing LARP with DOS in a werewolf game, and I was completely intimidated by the idea. I was like, you go have fun, I'm not going to do it. Then eventually I got bored being out home alone on Saturday nights, so I was like, okay, I'll go give it a try. And so I made a bonar and went and joined the game, and been having fun ever since.
I've been LARPing since my junior year of high school. Junior year of high school, which was way back in 2000.
I have been LARPing for about 3 years.
For serious, I would say 3 years.
Since July of 2019, so just over two years.
I've been LARPing now 26 years.
I've been live playing LARPing about a year.
So I've actually been LARPing for a year and a half. This is my only LARP experience I've ever had. I've never LARPed with another group. My advice I would give to anybody who is going into LARP is you're not playing D&D. It's not the same experience. It's similar, but it's so different in that you have all these other factors with other people playing. They may or may not be your friend. You're not confined to one party setting. Don't stress out too much about your costume because people will love you anyways.
If you're new to it, I would say don't feel like you have to know everything the first time you step into a game, because you're not going to. And that's okay. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to feel new. You know, like a good LARP community is going to welcome you in. Players are going to look out for you. They're going to include you in the story that is going on. And you have the responsibility to give back.
If adventure presents itself, go with it. Have fun. Don't get hung up on being scared that you're gonna look silly or that people are gonna laugh at you. No, everybody's there to have a good time. Say yes to adventure. Say yes to the fun.
If someone said, Jamie, what's the best advice you can give a new player? I would say give it 10 games. And try not to compare your session today to your last session and the session that you have afterwards. Again, don't compare it to the session that you're participating in right now. And once you have that more complete experience, then I think you're better equipped to sort of judge the overall experience, understand where you're going next, things like that. You just need to give it 10 games. You need to try it out.
My best advice for people who are going to LARP is that just think of it as like a murder mystery. It's always what I tell people whenever I talk about LARPs. Like, think of it as a murder mystery. Just something very, very simple, something that you can, like, you know, completely just play pretend and be a child again. Because I guarantee that even for a brief moment when you get to be a child again, it will make you feel better about all the stressors of being an adult. Trust me, I'm 37 years old. Being involved in a LARP is it just at the end of a crazy week, it just makes you feel good.
My name's Jamie. I play Elias Moncalvillo, Clan La Sombra. As far as my role in the game, currently I am a player, but I'm actually the founder of Desert of Shadows as well. The origin of Desert of Shadows, or DOS, I'm going to call it DOS just because Desert of Shadows is kind of long, is pretty simple. You know, I've played Vampire the Masquerade since I was 14 years old. I'll be 40 in October. And I've participated in local troop games, fan club games across the nation and internationally, etc. But it wasn't until I went to this Ren Fair in Texas did DOS really come to life. So I'm not a Ren Fair person. Ren Fair is cool, it's just not what I really want to do. But a group of my friends told me about this Ren Fair in Texas, and they're like, it's amazing, you have to see it. And so we went there and we camped, and I was a skeptic going to this Ren Fair. And essentially what they've done is they've built this entire ginormous city, and it was just incredible walking through that space. And I remember thinking within the first 10 or 20 minutes of being at that Ren Fair, like, this is done so well, even though I know I'm not a Ren Fair person, I want to be here. And that's what sort of set the spark or that aha moment for me. We could create this environment, but for Vampire the Masquerade, and that's where DOS was born. I came home from Texas, made a couple of phone calls, there was a barbecue at my house, and I sat probably 5 to 10 people down, and I said, okay, I have this idea, and that's where it started.
My name is Karen. I play the Setite Belinda. She runs a meth lab. That's kind of the Setite way. The Setites live to corrupt, and there's no question that a meth lab is going to corrupt.
I would say the biggest similarity between Max and I is Max is a giant flirt. He loves flirting with everyone, but he loves doing it, unlike me, he likes to do it in a very subtle way. But the biggest difference between Max and I is Max has a temper, and he's not afraid to use it.
I don't know if there's anything really similar about me and Pandora, but I personally enjoy freaking people out. I don't think Pandora understands that she freaks people out, but I enjoy freaking people out.
So I'm Jacob. I play Tyrdea, current primogenitor of Clan Gangrel. I'd say the biggest difference between me and my character is I am not that cocky. Ty is very full of himself. He definitely thinks that he knows what he's doing all the time, and I don't go through life the same way.
When I first started playing game, I didn't know anything about Vampire. So I intentionally sort of came into the game as a very young vampire. And when I mean very young, I don't mean like been a vampire for 10 years or even 5 years. Joanna was 3 months old at the start of this chronicle. She's the Oracle of Las Vegas, or that's how she styled herself. And that has, I think, allowed her to survive as long as she has, because Joanna makes really poor decisions.
My name is Jose. I play Stain. I am a Bruja who is a part of the Anarchs. And he is of the mindset that none of the sets should actually be in charge. There needs to be a reset.
She got sent to the big bad villain of the Chronicle against her will to deliver something that was not what he asked for, and the people who sent her knew it. She's doing her best to try to find out who's telling the truth and who's lying to her. It appears now that everyone is lying.
I feel like my most memorable Desert of Shadows experience is I had a downtime experience with a friend of mine where we were playing characters that were vampires, but were very young vampires. I was playing a character named Raven, and she was laying in the backyard with another vampire friend of hers, and they were discussing what they missed about being human. And I think that may be one of the most important Desert of Shadows experiences I've had. We had a really great scene. But it's only second to the scene in which that character was killed in front of her. When this particular character passed away, they were probably the most important part of it, but watching it from across the room was probably the second most important Desert of Shadows scene, because it was, her connection to being vampire but also being human at the same time was lost.
So I think my most memorable experience in LARP actually happened last game as of recording. I was sitting in a room, a meeting with, there was all the other Primogen, the prince, the representative of the Anarchs, several whips were present. I mean, this room was just chock full. And I remember hearing something said that just made my stomach, I just lost. It was something that was pretty crazy to learn. And going forward, it definitely changed the way that both I and my character perceive situations.
I have had so many memorable experiences with Desert of Shadows that it's really hard to pick just one. I definitely try to play the kind of game that's very, I would say, character-oriented. So I've had a lot of great dramatic moments with other players. That have felt extremely meaningful because of the relationships that these characters have built up. Joanna's sire that abandoned her at the start of game that I wrote into her backstory in Las Vegas actually ended up dying in a downtime, and that scene was so horrific and moving at the same time, and that was the moment that Joanna first realized that her sire had actually cared about her. I sobbed for like 30 minutes. And I mean sobbed, like I ugly cried on my couch for like 30 minutes, and it was amazing. You know, like the level of just, that's the thing about LARP that's so great, that I think that's different from a movie, even from a novel. It's just the level, like how close it feels, and that level of like immersion. And my heart actually kind of got broken in that downtime, and it was great.
This is one of my families. Everybody has like their extended family outside of their biological family. We have our chosen families. You know, you have your friends that you spend your weekends with, maybe you play D&D with, or you go on vacations with sometime, and they're not related to you. And then you also have your more extended families, and that's what Desert of Shadows is. It's a family. We come together to play games, to tell each other stories. We go out and have happy hour together. And I've really connected with everybody. And yeah, I love our little community that we've created. It's my family.
Coming to Desert of Shadows allowed me to find people in Las Vegas who understood the parts about me that other people didn't understand. You know, like the fact that like I'm okay, like I love like, you know, sexy girls, but I also love a little bit of horror, you know, or I love dressing up on the weekends and putting in some fangs, you know, like I wanted to find people who enjoyed watching a horror movie, but also playing a video game, but then also watching a football game. You know, like I wanted to find people who were in that same group. And honestly, I've found some of my closest friends here in Vegas through this game. So it means a lot.
Desert of Shadows to me is the most accepting group I've ever put myself in. No matter where I've looked, no matter who I've talked to, I've always been able to find a friendly face.
Desert of Shadows means many things to me. When I first moved here, I didn't know anyone. Desert of Shadows was the first place that I found friends. Feels like a family. It feels like a place that I know I can go for whatever I need, even if it's not like just LARP. Desert of Shadows is a place where I can express my creativity and enjoy the creativity of other people. It has been an amazing outlet for that too, which is, you know, making these videos and providing them for the community, and seeing the response that people have had has been like really heartwarming and overwhelming at times. And I can't imagine living in Las Vegas without Desert of Shadows.
The idea was always from day one to create an environment where people could play this game, but also build sort of like this group of friends. So it's always great and reassuring to hear that people's experiences are positive. Participating in the community, I like to hear that people enjoy the community more than they enjoy a specific game, because I think that game sessions are fleeting, they come and they go, but our community is like more lasting.
A lot like Choose. It's a place where you can go and everybody knows your name. It's a place where you can get away, have fun, and enjoy a great story.
Desert of Shadows is my home now. I would feel a loss like a loss of a family member if I lost Desert of Shadows. I really would. I love the people. I love the experience. I love the community. And it's not just because I like LARP. I don't know that I would feel this way if I were LARPing in another group.